There's a law operating in your life right now, at this very moment, that 99% of humanity has completely forgotten. And here's what's shocking: this law doesn't care whether you believe in it or not. It's working, right now, just like gravity. And the reason you're struggling, the reason you feel stuck, the reason your prayers seem to go unanswered, it's not because God has abandoned you. It's because you've been unknowingly using this law backwards. I'm Joseph Murphy, and for over 3 decades, I've studied the hidden teachings of divine law. And what I'm about to share with you was considered too powerful to teach openly. But the time has come for you to remember what your soul already knows. In the next 80 minutes, I'm going to share with you the forgotten teachings of divine law that will completely transform how you see every challenge in your life. You're not here by accident. You're here because your subconscious mind, that infinite intelligence within you, has guided you to this exact moment. And what you're about to learn has the power to turn your greatest pain into your greatest purpose. Perhaps you're watching this because you feel abandoned. You've prayed, you've tried, you've done everything right, but things keep falling apart. Maybe you're carrying resentment about the past, wondering why certain things happen to you. Or perhaps you're afraid of the future, worried that the other shoe is about to drop. You might even be thinking, I've heard all this positive thinking stuff before, and it doesn't work for me. My friend, I understand. I've sat with thousands of people just like you, and what I've discovered is this. It's not that divine law doesn't work, it's that we've been taught to work against it instead of with it. Most people think that faith means just believing harder, or that divine law means you can magically manifest whatever you want. But that's not what the ancients taught. The forgotten teaching, the one that's been lost, is this. Divine law operates whether you're conscious of it or not. And what most people call tragedy is actually the universe's way of redirecting you toward your highest good. The blessing is always there, but it's hidden until you learn to see with different eyes. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you today. I'm not going to give you theory. I'm not going to give you wishful thinking. Everything I share comes from 30 years of study, from working directly with scripture, ancient texts, and thousands of real people with real problems. I've seen this work in lives that seemed hopeless. I've watched people go from bankruptcy to abundance, from illness to health, from despair to joy, not through magic, but through understanding and applying these forgotten laws. And I'm going to give you the practical steps, the real techniques, the actual practices that you can use starting today. By the time we finish our journey together, you're going to look back at your life and see it differently. That job you lost? The door that opened you to your true calling? That relationship that ended? The lesson that prepared you for real love? That illness that scared you? The wake-up call that saved your life? This isn't about pretending bad things are good. It's about discovering the hidden blessing that was always there, waiting for you to find it. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin this sacred journey together. Now, before I teach you the law, I want to tell you some stories. Because truth, real truth, is always best understood through story. And these stories will plant seeds in your consciousness that will bloom as we move forward. Let me tell you about an ancient parable, one that's been told for thousands of years, but whose meaning has been forgotten. There was once a young prince in Persia, full of life and vitality. He loved to ride horses across the desert, loved to hunt, loved to feel the wind in his face. One day, while riding, his horse stumbled and threw him. The prince fell hard, and his leg broke in 2 places. It was a terrible injury. He was carried back to the palace, and as he lay there in agony, his closest advisor, a wise old man, came to his bedside. The prince looked at him with tears in his eyes and said, "Why? Why has this happened to me?" And the advisor, without hesitation, said, "My prince, there is a hidden blessing in this." The prince was furious. "A hidden blessing? I'm in agony. My leg is broken. I can't ride. I can't hunt. I can't do anything I love. What blessing could possibly be in this?" The advisor simply smiled and said, "You'll see." And the prince, in his anger and pain, had the advisor thrown into the prison. He thought, "This man is a fool. There's no blessing here. Only suffering." Weeks passed. The prince's leg was healing, but slowly. One day, while still recovering, he decided to go for a walk in the gardens, using a crutch. He wandered far from the palace, farther than he should have. And suddenly, from behind the rocks, armed men appeared. They were from an enemy tribe, raiders who had crossed into the kingdom's territory. They seized the prince, before his guards could reach him. They bound him, and took him back to their camp. Now, this tribe had a terrible custom. Once a year, they would sacrifice a young man to their gods, and the man had to be perfect, without any physical flaw or blemish. They examined the prince. He was young, strong, from royal blood, perfect for their sacrifice. But then they saw his leg. Still healing, still weak, still broken, and according to their law, he could not be sacrificed. He was flawed. So they let him go. They released him in the desert, and he made his way back to the kingdom. When he returned, the first thing he did was go to the prison. He had the advisor released immediately. He fell at the old man's feet and said, "You were right. There was a hidden blessing. If my leg hadn't been broken, I would have been perfect for their sacrifice. I would be dead. My broken leg saved my life." And then he looked at the advisor and said, "But tell me something. You were thrown in prison because of me, because of my anger. Where was your hidden blessing in that?" And the advisor smiled and said, "My prince, if I hadn't been in prison, I would have been with you that day in the garden. I would have been walking beside you when the raiders came. And unlike you, my body has no flaws. They would have sacrificed me instead. You see, my friend, this story contains a truth that most people never understand. Every situation, absolutely every situation, contains its perfect solution. Your subconscious mind, connected to infinite intelligence, already knows the blessing before you do. But we judge too quickly. We see only what's right in front of us. We call something a tragedy when it's actually a rescue. We call something a loss when it's actually protection. And we spend years bitter and angry about things that were actually saving our lives. Now let me tell you something else about this ancient parable that most people miss. The prince learned something that day that changed him forever. He learned that his limited human perspective could never see the full picture. He learned that what seemed like the worst thing that could happen was actually divine intervention. He learned to trust even when he couldn't understand. And from that day forward, whenever something challenging happened in his kingdom, he would pause and ask, "What is the hidden blessing here?" And that consciousness, that way of seeing, made him one of the wisest rulers his kingdom had ever known. This is what I want for you. I want you to develop this consciousness. Because when you do, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a conscious co-creator with divine intelligence. You stop fighting against life and start flowing with it. You stop demanding that things go your way and start trusting that they're already going the perfect way, even when you can't see it yet. Let me tell you about a real woman who came to see me. This was 3 years ago. I'll call her Sarah. Sarah was a professional singer. From the time she was a little girl, her whole identity was wrapped up in her voice. She had a beautiful soprano voice, the kind that made people cry when they heard it. She sang in theaters, in churches, at special events. Her voice was her gift, her livelihood, her entire sense of who she was. And then she got sick. It started as a sore throat that wouldn't go away. Then she lost her voice completely. The doctors ran tests. They found nodules on her vocal cords. She had surgery, but the damage was done. Her singing voice was gone. Not diminished. Gone. When she came to my office, she was devastated. "Dr. Murphy," she said to me, "God has taken everything from me." I prayed and prayed. I begged him to heal me. But he didn't. I've lost my gift. I've lost my purpose. I've lost myself. I don't know who I am without my voice. And I looked at her and I said something that shocked her. I said, "My dear, God hasn't taken anything from you. He's been trying to give you something, but you've been too busy singing to hear him." She looked at me like I was crazy. "What do you mean?" And I said, "Tell me, why did you sing?" And she said, "Because I love it. Because it's my gift." And I said, "No. Tell me the truth. Who were you singing for?" And she was quiet for a long time. And then she started to cry. She said, I was singing for my father. He wanted me to be a singer. I was singing to make people love me. I was singing to prove I was worthy. I was singing for everyone except myself. You see, my friend, Sarah had been using her voice to please others her entire life. She had never honored her own truth. She had never asked herself what she really wanted to say, what she really wanted to express. Her voice had become a prison, not a gift. And her subconscious mind knew it. And infinite intelligence knew it. So the voice was taken away, not as punishment, but as liberation. I worked with Sarah for 6 months. And in the silence, something remarkable happened. She learned to listen. For the first time in her life, she listened to her own heart. And she discovered that what she really wanted to do was right. She wanted to teach. She wanted to help other people find their authentic voice, not their performing voice. Today, Sarah is one of the most powerful writers and teachers I know. She helps people all over the world. And she told me recently, Dr. Murphy, losing my voice was the best thing that ever happened to me. The gift I thought was taken was actually the false gift. The real gift was discovered in the silence. Sometimes, my friend, God removes what we think we need to give us, what we truly need. And we fight it. We resist it. We call it tragedy. But years later, when we can finally see the full picture, we fall to our knees in gratitude. Now I want to tell you something about Sarah's journey that's important for you to understand. The transformation didn't happen overnight. There were days when she was angry. Days when she doubted. Days when she wanted to give up. But she kept doing the work. She kept praying. She kept asking, what is the hidden blessing? And gradually, layer by layer, the answer revealed itself. Not all at once, but in perfect divine timing. And here's what I've learned from watching thousands of people go through this process. The hidden blessing is always proportional to the challenge. The bigger the loss, the bigger the gift waiting on the other side. The deeper the pain, the deeper the wisdom you're being prepared to receive. The longer the darkness, the brighter the light that's about to dawn. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. Everything is working together for your highest good. Even when it feels like everything is falling apart, let me tell you something personal. Something I don't often share. There was a time in my own life when I was so angry at God I could barely pray. I was a young minister, full of faith, full of confidence in divine law. And I prayed for something. I prayed with absolute conviction. I visualized it. I felt it. I believed it. And it didn't happen. Not only did it not happen, the opposite happened. The door I was certain God was opening slammed shut in my face. And I felt betrayed. I felt abandoned. I questioned everything I'd been teaching. If divine law works, why didn't it work for me? If God is love, why did he deny me this thing I wanted so badly? I went through what the mystics call the dark night of the soul. And in that darkness, I had no answers. I had only questions and pain. But I kept studying. I kept praying, even when I didn't feel like it. And years later, many years later, I looked back at that moment, and I understood. The thing I had prayed for, the thing I was so certain I needed, would have destroyed me. It would have taken me down a path that would have led to misery. I couldn't see it then. I was too young, too inexperienced, too attached to my own idea of what my life should look like. But infinite intelligence saw it, and the no, the closed door, the unanswered prayer, was actually the most merciful answer I could have received. My friend, unanswered prayers are often the most merciful answers. You just can't see it in the moment. But your subconscious mind, connected to infinite intelligence, sees the whole chessboard. You see only the next move. Trust the intelligence that created your heartbeat. Trust the wisdom that knows how many hairs are on your head. Trust that when a door closes, it's because a better door is about to open. Let me go deeper into this experience of mine, because I think it will help you. When that door closed, I didn't just feel disappointed. I felt like a failure. I felt like a fraud. Here I was, teaching people about faith and divine law, and my own prayer had failed. I couldn't face my congregation. I couldn't look people in the eye. I went through a period of intense self-doubt, and even depression. And it was in that dark place that I learned something profound. I learned that faith isn't about controlling outcomes. Faith is about trusting the process, even when you can't see where it's leading. I learned that divine law isn't a tool to get what you want, it's a principle that's always working for your highest good, even when your highest good looks different from what you thought you wanted. I learned that sometimes the greatest blessing is in having your plans completely disrupted, because your plans are based on your limited understanding, but God's plans are based on infinite wisdom. And when you can finally surrender your agenda and trust the divine agenda, that's when miracles start happening. Not the miracles you asked for, but the miracles you actually needed. Let me tell you about a businessman I worked with. I'll call him Robert. Robert had built a multi-million-dollar business from nothing. He was proud of it. His identity was completely wrapped up in being successful, being the man who made it, being the provider. And then, in 1 year, through a series of events outside his control, he lost it all. The business collapsed. He declared bankruptcy. Everything he'd worked 20 years to build was gone. He came to me in absolute despair. He said, "Dr. Murphy, I've lost everything. My wife looks at me differently. My kids think I'm a failure. I think I'm a failure. I don't know how to start over. I'm too old. I'm too tired. I just want to give up." And I said to him, "Robert, what if I told you that this bankruptcy is the best thing that ever happened to you?" He looked at me with anger in his eyes. "How dare you say that? You don't understand what I've lost." But I worked with him. I taught him these principles I'm teaching you today. And slowly, very slowly, he started to see things differently. He started to ask himself, who was I when I was building that business? What was I trying to prove? Who was I trying to impress? And he realized that he'd been running on fear the entire time. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being poor again. Fear of being seen as unsuccessful. His business had been built on fear, not love. On ego, not purpose. And it was killing him slowly. He was never home. He barely knew his children. He'd had 2 heart attacks from stress. The bankruptcy forced him to stop. It forced him to go back to basics. It forced him to remember why he'd started in the first place. And this time, when he rebuilt, he built something different. Something smaller, yes. But something more aligned with his values. Something more meaningful. Something that allowed him to actually live. And he said to me 2 years later, "Dr. Murphy, I was successful, but I wasn't alive. The bankruptcy was my resurrection. I had to die to the old self to become who I was meant to be." You see, my friend, the universe won't let you build your life on a false foundation forever. It's too loving for that. It will knock down what isn't real, so you can build what is. And in the moment, it feels like death, but it's actually birth. Now let me tell you more about Robert's journey, because it contains important lessons. When he first lost everything, he went through the classic stages of grief. Denial, this can't be happening. Anger, why is this happening to me? Bargaining, if I just work harder, I can fix this. Depression, it's hopeless. I've lost everything. But the final stage, acceptance, that's where the transformation began. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. Acceptance means seeing reality clearly without the filter of your ego's demands. When Robert finally accepted that the old business was gone and wasn't coming back, he could finally ask the important question, what now? What is this experience trying to teach me? What does my soul really want? And that's when he discovered that what he'd been calling success was actually slavery. He'd been working 18-hour days, missing his children's school events, neglecting his marriage, sacrificing his health. All for what? For money? For status? For the approval of people he didn't even like. The bankruptcy stripped all of that away and forced him to confront the truth. He'd been living someone else's version of success, not his own. When he rebuilt, he did it differently. He set boundaries. He prioritized his family. He chose purpose over profit, meaning over money. And you know what happened? He ended up making more money than before, but this time it came as a byproduct of doing what he loved, not from striving and fear. This is how divine law works. When you align with your true purpose, abundance flows naturally. Let me tell you one more story before we move into the teachings. There was a mother who came to see me. Her son was 19 years old, and he was, in her words, going down the wrong path. He dropped out of college. He was spending time with the wrong people. He wasn't working. He was angry and distant. And this mother was in agony. She tried everything. She tried controlling him, lecturing him, begging him, bribing him. Nothing worked. In fact, the more she tried to fix him, the worse he got. I taught her something that seemed impossible to her at the time. I said, "You need to stop trying to change him. You need to release him to divine order. You need to see the hidden blessing in this journey he's on." And she said, "Dr. Murphy, how can there be a blessing in watching my son destroy his life?" And I said, "Because you're not watching him destroy his life. You're watching him find his life. But he has to find it himself. Your fear and control are actually blocking his path." So she started a new practice. Every time she felt fear for her son, she would say, "Divine order is established in his life. He is guided by infinite intelligence. There is a hidden blessing in this journey." And she said it even though she didn't believe it. She said it because I told her to say it. And slowly, something shifted. Not in her son at first. In her. She found peace. She could sleep again. She could release the death grip she had on trying to control his life. And you know what happened? Her son hit rock bottom. He got arrested for something minor. He spent a night in jail. And in that jail cell, something in him woke up. He realized he'd been running from himself. He realized he'd been angry at the wrong things. He came home, and for the first time, he talked to his mother honestly. He said, "Mom, I needed to fail. I needed to mess up. I needed to learn who I am, not who you wanted me to be. And now I know." Today, that young man is thriving. He didn't go back to college. He found a different path. But it's his path. And his mother told me, "Dr. Murphy, the blessing wasn't in my son changing. The blessing was in me learning to let go. The blessing was in both of us finding freedom." Sometimes, my friend, the blessing is hidden in letting go. In trusting that other people have their own divine timing. In trusting that what looks like failure is actually the curriculum they need. We want to save people from their lessons, but the lessons are the blessings. And here's something profound that this mother discovered. When she released her son to divine order, when she stopped trying to control and manipulate his life, when she trusted that infinite intelligence knew better than her ego, not only did her son transform, but she transformed. She realized that her need to control him came from her own fear, her own unworthiness, her own belief that she was only valuable if she could fix other people. Letting go of her son forced her to look at herself. And what she found was that she'd been living through him, measuring her worth by his achievements, trying to prove she was a good mother by having a perfect son. But none of us are perfect. And thank God for that, because it's in our imperfection that we discover our humanity, our compassion, our real strength. This is a pattern I see over and over again. The hidden blessing is often not in the other person changing, but in us changing, in us releasing our attachments, in us facing our fears, in us discovering who we are, beyond our roles, beyond our achievements, beyond other people's opinions. The universe uses other people and circumstances as mirrors to show us what we need to heal in ourselves. And when we finally get the lesson, everything shifts. Now, each of these stories contains the same hidden law. And you might have already begun to sense it. But now I'm going to make it explicit. I'm going to teach you the forgotten principles that explain why these stories aren't coincidences, they're evidence of a divine law operating in every life, including yours. So let's go deeper. There are 7 forgotten teachings about divine law that, when you understand them, will change everything. I'm going to take you through each one, simply and clearly, so that your conscious mind understands and your subconscious mind accepts. The first forgotten teaching is what I call the law of reversed effort. And here's what it means. The harder you fight against something, the more power you give it. Now, you've probably experienced this. The more you try to force something to happen, the more it seems to slip away. The more you struggle with a problem, the bigger it gets. This isn't just psychology. This is law. Think of it like quicksand. If you've ever seen quicksand, you know that struggling makes you sink faster. The natural instinct is to fight, to thrash, to panic, but that's exactly what kills you. The way to survive quicksand is to relax, to spread your weight, to move slowly and deliberately. It's counterintuitive, but it works. Your subconscious mind doesn't recognize the words, don't, or not. When you say, I don't want to be poor, your subconscious hears, poor. When you say, I don't want to be sick, it hears, sick. When you resist something, when you fight against it, you're actually energizing it. You're giving it your attention, your emotion, your life force. And what you give your attention to grows. The universe is a mirror. It doesn't reflect what you're fighting against. It reflects what you're focused on. And most people spend their entire lives focused on what they don't want, wondering why they keep getting more of it. This is the law of reversed effort. So what's the hidden blessing in obstacles that won't move? They're teaching you to flow, instead of force. They're teaching you to relax into divine order, instead of trying to control everything. They're teaching you that surrender isn't weakness. It's wisdom. From a psychological perspective, what you resist persists. From Scripture, Jesus said, resist not evil. Don't fight it. Don't give it your power. From quantum physics, we know that observation affects outcome. What you focus on, you bring into manifestation. So here's the practical wisdom. Notice when you're efforting versus allowing. When you feel yourself straining, forcing, struggling, stop. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what if this situation is perfect as it is? What if I don't need to fight this? What if I just need to trust? And then say this affirmation. I relax and let divine order reign. Feel it, mean it, and watch what happens. Let me give you a real example of how this works. I had a client who was desperately trying to sell her house. She needed to move for a new job, and the house had been on the market for months with no offers. She was panicking, lowering the price, staging it differently, doing everything she could think of. The more she tried, the worse it got. She was putting out desperate energy, and buyers could feel it. I taught her the law of reversed effort. I said, stop trying to sell it. Release it. Trust that the perfect buyer will come at the perfect time. She thought I was crazy, but she was so exhausted from struggling that she agreed to try. She took it off the market for 2 weeks. She stopped thinking about it. She focused on other things. She relaxed. Within a week of taking it off the market, her neighbor mentioned to a friend that a house in their neighborhood might be coming up for sale. That friend had been looking for a house in that exact neighborhood for 2 years. They reached out, offered asking price, and closed in 3 weeks. The blessing came when she stopped fighting. This is law. The second forgotten teaching is the law of subconscious acceptance. And this one is crucial. Your subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you impress upon it with feeling. Let me say that again. Your subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you impress upon it with feeling. It doesn't judge. It doesn't say, is this good or bad? It just accepts and creates. Think of your subconscious like a garden. It will grow whatever seeds you plant. It doesn't care if you plant tomatoes or weeds. It just grows what you give it. And right now, most people are planting weeds. They're planting worry, fear, doubt, expectation of loss, belief in limitation. And then they wonder why their life looks the way it does. Your current life, right now, is the harvest of your past mental seeds. Everything you're experiencing is the outpicturing of what you've been impressing on your subconscious mind. Most people don't want to hear this. They want to blame circumstances, other people, bad luck. But the truth is, you are the gardener of your consciousness, and you've been planting seeds every single day through your habitual thoughts and feelings. Here's the deeper meaning. Most people impress their subconscious with worry, fear, and expectation of loss, without even realizing it. They wake up and the first thought is, what's going to go wrong today? They see a challenge and think, of course this happened to me. Nothing ever works out. They go to sleep replaying their problems. And their subconscious says, okay, you want more of this? Here you go. The hidden blessing in challenges is that they're showing you what you've been unconsciously believing. If you keep experiencing the same problem over and over, it's not bad luck. It's a pattern. It's your subconscious showing you what belief is running the show. And once you see it, you can change it. Your outer world is always reflecting your inner assumptions. Always. This is an ancient teaching. As within, so without. The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Science tells us that habitual thought patterns create neural pathways that literally shape your brain, and therefore your perception, and therefore your experience. So here's the practical wisdom. Before sleep, this is the most important time. Impress your subconscious with what you desire, not what you fear. As you're falling asleep, your subconscious is most receptive. It's like the garden soil is most soft and ready. So plant good seeds. Imagine what you want to experience. Feel it as real. Fall asleep in that feeling. And during the day, watch your habitual phrases. Notice when you say things like, I always get sick this time of year. I never have enough money. Nothing ever works out for me. These aren't just statements. They're commands to your subconscious. So change them. Say instead, I am healthy and strong. I am abundantly provided for. Things are always working out for my highest good. And here's an affirmation you can use. My subconscious now accepts perfect health, wealth, and happiness. Say it with feeling. Say it like you mean it. And your subconscious will accept it and begin to create it. Let me tell you about the power of this law. I worked with a woman who had chronic health problems for 15 years. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong. But she was always tired, always in pain, always sick with something. We started working together, and I asked her to tell me what she said to herself when she woke up each morning. She said, well, I usually think about how tired I am and wonder if I'll make it through the day. There it was. She was impressing her subconscious every single morning with exhaustion and limitation. I taught her to change her morning routine. The moment she woke up, before she even opened her eyes, she would say, I am filled with divine energy. I am healthy, strong, and vibrant. My body is renewing itself right now. And she would feel it. She would imagine energy flowing through every cell. Within 3 months, her health problems began to disappear. Within 6 months, she had more energy than she'd had in 2 decades. Her doctors were amazed. But I wasn't. This is law. Your subconscious creates what you impress upon it. Change the impression, change the experience. The third forgotten teaching is the law of divine compensation. And this law says that the universe always balances itself. Every loss contains equal or greater gain. You can never truly lose anything. You only exchange it. Think of a river that's blocked by a dam. What does the river do? Does it stop? Does it give up? No. It finds a new path. And often the new path is more beautiful, more powerful than the original. Nature abhors a vacuum. When something is removed from your life, something else must fill that space. This is law. What appears as loss is often divine removal of something that no longer serves you. Your subconscious mind, connected to infinite intelligence, knows what you need, and when you need it. And sometimes what you need is for something to be taken away. Not as punishment. As preparation. As protection. As upgrade. The hidden blessing is in the compensation you couldn't see coming. You lose a job, and 6 months later you're in a better position making more money. You lose a relationship, and a year later, you meet the person you were actually meant to be with. You lose your health, and in recovering you discover a strength and wisdom you never had before. But here's the key. Time reveals the compensation, but faith accesses it immediately. Most people wait to see the compensation before they trust. But that's backwards. Trust first, and the compensation appears faster. Physics tells us that energy is conserved. It transforms, but it never disappears. Scripture tells us that all things work together for good. Life experience shows us that closed doors always precede open ones. So here's the practical wisdom. When you lose something, immediately ask, what is the compensation? Don't wait. Don't wallow. Don't resist. Ask the question, and trust that the answer is already forming. Trust that divine intelligence knows better timing and better gifts than you do. And say this affirmation: as one door closes, a better one opens. Feel it, know it, and watch it happen. I want to share a powerful example of this law in action. I knew a man who lost his wife to cancer after 30 years of marriage. He was devastated. He didn't want to go on. He couldn't imagine life without her. And for a year, he was in deep grief. But he kept asking the question I taught him: what is the compensation? He didn't ask it with anger or bitterness. He asked it with genuine curiosity and a desire to honor his wife's memory by continuing to live fully. And slowly, the compensation began to reveal itself. He discovered that his wife's death had awakened something in him, a desire to help others going through grief. He started a support group. He trained as a grief counselor. He wrote a book about his experience, and through his pain, he was able to help thousands of people navigate their own losses. He told me, "Dr. Murphy, I would give anything to have her back. But since I can't, I'm grateful that her death wasn't meaningless. It became the catalyst for my life's most important work." That's divine compensation. It doesn't erase the loss. It doesn't pretend it didn't hurt. But it transforms the pain into purpose. It takes what seems like an ending and reveals it as a beginning. This is always available to you, but you have to choose to see it. The fourth, forgotten teaching, is the law of mental equivalence. And this is profound. You can only experience what you have a mental equivalent for. Let me explain. A mental equivalent is a level of consciousness. It's like a radio frequency. You can only receive what you're tuned to. You can't receive something you can't conceive. If you have no mental equivalent for wealth, you can pray for money all day long and it won't stick. If you have no mental equivalent for love, you can meet wonderful people but you won't be able to recognize them or receive them. If you have no mental equivalent for health, your body might heal, but your consciousness will create sickness again. Your limitations aren't out there. They're in your consciousness. Most people pray for things they don't have mental equivalents for, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. They say, "I want to be successful," but in their consciousness they see themselves as a failure. They say, "I want to be loved," but in their consciousness they believe they're unworthy. The words don't matter. The consciousness matters. Here's the hidden blessing in delayed manifestations. When something you want takes time to appear, it's not because God is punishing you or testing you. It's because you're being prepared to hold what you're asking for. You're developing the mental equivalent. You're expanding your consciousness. And expansion of consciousness always precedes expansion of experience. Always. Einstein said, "Problems cannot be solved at the same level of consciousness that created them." Scripture says, "According to your faith be it unto you." Psychology tells us that cognitive schemas filter all incoming information. You see what you expect to see. You experience what you have consciousness for. So here's the practical wisdom. Build mental equivalence through visualization, through study, through association. If you want wealth, study wealthy people, not to copy them, but to build a mental equivalent of what wealth consciousness feels like. If you want love, spend time around people who are happily in love. If you want health, visualize yourself healthy. Study health. Think health. Ask yourself, who would I need to become to naturally have this? Not, how do I get this? But, who do I need to become? Because when you become that person in consciousness, the experience follows automatically. It's law. And here's your affirmation. I now develop the consciousness of my desire fulfilled. Say it, mean it, and become it. Here's a story that illustrates this beautifully. I worked with a young man who wanted to start his own business, but kept failing. Every venture collapsed within months. He would come to me frustrated, saying, "I'm doing everything right. Why isn't this working?" And I would ask him, "When you think about being a successful business owner, what do you see? What do you feel?" And he would say, "Honestly, I feel like a fraud. I feel like I'm pretending. I see my father's face telling me I'll never amount to anything. I feel terrified that people will discover I don't know what I'm doing." There it was. He had no mental equivalent for success. He had a mental equivalent for failure, because that's what had been impressed on his consciousness since childhood. So we worked on building a new mental equivalent. Every day for 6 months, he studied successful entrepreneurs. He visualized himself as successful. He practiced feeling confident, capable, and worthy. He rewrote the stories he'd been telling himself. And then he started a new business. This one succeeded. Why? Because his consciousness had changed. He had developed the mental equivalent, and the outer experience followed. The fifth forgotten teaching is the law of dual thinking. Every thought contains its opposite. Life asks you to choose consciously. This is like a coin with two sides. You can't have one without the other existing. In every crisis is opportunity. In every opportunity is responsibility. In every loss is gain. In every gain is new responsibility. The hidden blessing is always the other side of the apparent curse. Your consciousness has the freedom to focus on either side. This is free will. But most people unconsciously focus on the negative side, and call it realism. They say, "I'm just being realistic." No. You're being selective. You're choosing to see only one side of the coin. And then you wonder why your life is one-sided. Here's the deeper meaning. Mastery is consciously choosing which side to energize. The Hermetic principle teaches that everything is dual, everything has poles. Buddhism teaches the middle way, acknowledging both but attaching to neither. Quantum physics shows us wave-particle duality. Everything exists in multiple states simultaneously until observed. You collapse it into one reality through your focus. So, here's the practical wisdom. Practice the flip. For every negative, deliberately find the corresponding positive. Not to deny the negative, but to see the whole picture. Someone betrays you. Okay, that's one side. What's the other side? Maybe you're now free from a false relationship. Maybe you learned to trust your intuition. Maybe you're being redirected to something better. You lose money. One side. What's the other? Maybe you're learning non-attachment. Maybe you're being shown that your security isn't in money. Maybe you're about to discover a better source of income. Ask, what's the hidden opportunity in this challenge? And watch how your experience shifts. Here's your affirmation. I choose to see the blessing side of every situation. Say it when things go wrong. Say it when you're tempted to see only the negative. And watch your life transform. Let me give you a powerful example. I worked with a woman whose house burned down. She lost everything. Photos, heirlooms, possessions accumulated over 40 years. Gone. She was traumatized. And when she came to me, she said, "How can there possibly be a blessing in this?" And I said, "I don't know yet. But there is one. Let's find it together." We worked through her grief. And gradually, she started to see it. She realized that she'd been hoarding things, living in the past, unable to move forward because she was so attached to her possessions. The fire forced her to let go. It forced her to live in the present. It forced her to discover that her identity wasn't in her things. She moved into a smaller place. She bought only what she needed and truly loved. She felt lighter, freer, more alive than she had in decades. She said, "Dr. Murphy, I would never have chosen this. But now that it's happened, I can see that I was buried alive in that house. The fire didn't destroy my life. It freed me." That's the law of dual thinking. Everything has two sides. You choose which side you're going to energize with your attention and emotion. The sixth forgotten teaching is the law of assumption. And this is powerful. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you assume to be true. There's a difference. Most people try to attract success while assuming they're failures. Try to attract love while assuming they're unlovable. Try to attract health while assuming they're sick. And it doesn't work. Because assumption is the foundation. Think of it like wearing invisible glasses that filter reality. You see evidence for what you already believe. If you assume life is hard, you'll see only the hard things. If you assume people are untrustworthy, you'll attract untrustworthy people. If you assume you're unlucky, you'll experience unlucky circumstances. The world conforms to your assumptions, not your wishes. Most people assume lack, limitation, and unworthiness unconsciously. They don't realize they're doing it. But their results prove it. Look at your life right now. What are you experiencing? That's your assumption made visible. If you don't like what you're experiencing, you need to change your assumption. The hidden blessing in persistent problems is that they reveal your hidden assumptions. If the same problem keeps showing up, it's not bad luck. It's your assumption. You're assuming something that creates that problem. Find the assumption, change the assumption, and the problem must disappear. Neville Goddard taught this beautifully. He said, assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Not, try to get there. Not, work toward it. Assume it's already true. Neuroscience backs this up with the reticular activating system, which filters reality based on your beliefs. Scripture says, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. So here's the practical wisdom. Identify your current assumption by looking at your current results. Be honest. What are you assuming about yourself, about life, about what's possible? Then consciously choose a new assumption. Don't just wish for something different. Assume it's already true. Live from the desired state, not toward it. Here's your affirmation. I now assume the state of my desire fulfilled. Feel it. Walk in it. Think from it. And watch your outer world rearrange itself to match. I'll share a remarkable story about this. A man came to me who had been trying to find a romantic partner for 10 years. He'd been on hundreds of dates, but nothing ever worked out. He said, Dr. Murphy, I want love so badly. Why can't I find it? And I said, tell me what you assume about relationships. And he said, I assume that all the good ones are taken. I assume that I'm too old. I assume that something's wrong with me. There it was. He was trying to attract love, while assuming he was unlovable, and that love wasn't available to him. His assumptions were creating his experience. So I taught him to change his assumption. Every day, he would assume he was already in a loving relationship. He would imagine coming home to someone who adored him. He would feel loved, cherished, and worthy. He stopped searching desperately, and started living from the assumption that love was already his. Within 2 months, he met someone. Not through effort or searching, but through natural synchronicity. Someone introduced them at a casual gathering, and this person turned out to be perfect for him. He called me amazed. He said, it felt effortless, like it was meant to be. I said, that's because you changed your assumption. You stopped operating from lack, and started operating from having. The universe responded to your new assumption. The seventh and final forgotten teaching is the law of the Sabbath. And this is the one most people violate. After planting, you must rest and trust. Forcing delays the harvest. Think of a farmer who plants seeds. Does he dig them up every day to check if they're growing? No. He plants them, waters them, and then he rests. He trusts the process. If he kept digging them up to check, he'd kill them. This is the Sabbath principle. It's not about a day of the week. It's about a consciousness of rest. After you pray, after you visualize, after you set your intention, you must release it. You must enter into rest. You must trust that it's done. The waiting period is not punishment. It's gestation. Everything in nature has a gestation period. An oak tree doesn't appear overnight from an acorn. A baby doesn't appear overnight from conception. There's a period of invisible growth. The hidden blessing in the gap between prayer and manifestation is building your faith muscle. It's learning to trust when you don't see evidence yet. It's learning to rest in the knowing that it's done, even before it appears. This is advanced consciousness. Most people can't do it. They pray, and then immediately start worrying. They visualize, and then start checking, forcing, manipulating, and in doing so, they delay or cancel their own good. The Bible says God rested on the seventh day, not from exhaustion. God doesn't get tired. He rested in completion. It is finished. That's Sabbath consciousness. Eastern philosophy teaches Wu Wei, effortless action. Psychology teaches that detachment, after commitment, allows manifestation. You set the intention, and then let go. So here's the practical wisdom. After you pray, release and trust. Don't check, don't worry, don't manipulate. Say, it is done. Feel it as done. And then occupy yourself with other activities. Live your life. Trust the gestation period. Anytime the worry comes back, and it will, say, it is done. I rest. Practice Sabbath consciousness. Here's your affirmation. I plant my desire in divine soil and rest in perfect faith. Say it. Feel it. And then rest. Let the invisible forces of creation work on your behalf. Let me tell you about a woman who mastered this principle. She wanted to sell her business and retire. She'd been trying for 2 years with no success. She was constantly checking, worrying, adjusting the price, talking to more brokers, wearing herself out. I taught her the Sabbath principle. I said, you need to plant the seed and rest. Stop trying to make it happen. Trust that it's already done. She resisted at first. She said, but I need to take action. I said, yes, you take inspired action when you feel guided. But you don't force. You don't manipulate. You rest in trust. So, she tried it. She set her intention clearly. I sell my business at the perfect price to the perfect buyer at the perfect time. Then she released it. She stopped checking the listings every day. She stopped calling the broker constantly. She entered into Sabbath rest. Within 3 weeks, a buyer appeared out of nowhere. Someone who'd been watching her business for years, waiting for the right time. They offered more than asking price. The deal closed smoothly and quickly. She called me in tears. She said, it happened the moment I stopped forcing. I said, that's the Sabbath principle. God works while you rest. Now, understanding these laws intellectually is one thing, but you must practice them. Your subconscious mind learns through repetition and feeling. So I'm going to give you practical techniques, simple but powerful, that you can begin using today. And if you apply these consistently, your life must change. It's law. These are not complicated practices. They're simple, but they work. I've seen them transform lives for 30 years. The key is not doing them once. The key is making them your daily habit, until they become your automatic way of being. The first practice is what I call the daily hidden blessing inventory. Every evening, before you go to bed, review your day, and find one hidden blessing in something that seemed negative. This trains your consciousness to automatically look for the blessing side of dual reality. Here's how to do it. Before bed, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Review your day and identify one challenging moment. Maybe someone was rude to you. Maybe you got stuck in traffic. Maybe something broke. Whatever it is, take that moment and ask, what is the hidden blessing here? What is this teaching me? How is this serving my highest good? Write it down. Journaling deepens the impression on your subconscious. Feel gratitude for the hidden blessing even before you fully see it. Now, in the first week, this is going to feel forced. It's going to feel intellectual. You're going to think, I'm just making this up. Do it anyway. In the second week, it starts to feel more natural. You'll actually start finding real blessings. By the third week, you'll begin spotting blessings in real time during challenges. And long term, automatic blessing consciousness becomes your default. You won't have to try. You'll just naturally see the hidden gift. My friend, this one practice alone will transform your entire experience of life. Do it for 30 days without missing a day, and you will be a different person. I promise you. Let me tell you why this practice is so powerful. It rewires your brain. Neuroscience shows us that your brain has something called neuroplasticity, which means it can change and form new neural pathways. When you consistently look for blessings, you're creating new pathways that automatically scan for positive aspects of experience. Over time, this becomes your default mode of perception. You literally train your brain to see blessings instead of curses. But it's more than just psychology, it's spiritual law. When you practice gratitude for hidden blessings, you're aligning with the frequency of abundance. You're telling the universe, I trust you. I see your hand in everything. and the universe responds by showing you more and more blessings. What you focus on expands. Focus on blessings, and blessings multiply. The second practice is the subconscious impression technique. This is a specific method for impressing your subconscious before sleep with what you desire to experience. The moments before sleep are when your subconscious is most receptive. The conscious mind is relaxed. The critical factor is lowered. You bypass resistance. Here's how to do it. Get comfortable in bed, ready for sleep. Close your eyes, and take 3 deep breaths. Now imagine a scene that would naturally occur if your desire were already fulfilled. This is important. Don't imagine the getting. Imagine the having. Don't imagine winning the lottery. Imagine paying your bills easily with abundance in your account. Don't imagine meeting someone. Imagine being happily married, having breakfast together. See a specific scene. Make it sensory. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Now, feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is the key. The feeling is what impresses the subconscious. Feel the relief. Feel the joy. Feel the gratitude. Feel the satisfaction. Repeat your scene over and over. And here's the beautiful part. Let yourself fall asleep in that feeling. Fall asleep imagining your desire fulfilled. Your subconscious takes that impression into the deep creative sleep state. Your mind will wander. That's normal. Gently bring it back. You may fall asleep quickly. That's perfect. It means you've impressed it. You may have vivid dreams. That's your subconscious processing. And in your waking life, synchronicities will begin appearing. Things will line up. Doors will open. It's law. This is the technique I use myself every single night. It never fails. Your subconscious is the creator of your experience. Talk to it in the language it understands. Peaceful. Feel grateful. Feel joyful. Your subconscious responds to feeling, and feeling is the secret. Also, keep your scene simple and short. Don't try to create an elaborate movie. Just one simple scene that implies your desire is fulfilled. If you want health, imagine your doctor saying, "You're in perfect health." If you want a relationship, imagine someone you love saying, "I'm so glad we found each other." If you want financial freedom, imagine checking your bank balance and feeling satisfied. One simple scene, repeated with feeling, falling asleep in that feeling. The third practice is the divine order affirmation practice. This is a specific affirmation you use in the moment of challenge to activate the hidden blessing. It stops the automatic negative reaction and consciously chooses the blessing perspective. Here's how to do it. The moment something goes wrong, pause. Just 1 second. Take 1 breath. Then say, out loud if possible, divine order is now established in this situation. The hidden blessing is revealing itself now. All things work together for my highest good. Feel it as already true. Not like you're hoping, like you're knowing. Then proceed with practical action from peace, not panic. You're going to feel skeptical at first. Your mind is going to say, "This is nonsense. The car broke down. There's no blessing. Do it anyway." After 7 to 10 uses, you'll notice situations resolving in unexpected positive ways. The car breaking down led you to meet someone important. The delayed flight saved you from something. Eventually this becomes automatic. Blessing consciousness becomes your first response, not your afterthought. I have seen this affirmation work miracles. Absolute miracles. It short-circuits fear and activates faith. And faith is the bridge to your good. Here's a real example. A woman I know was running late for an important job interview. She hit every red light, got stuck behind a slow driver, and when she finally arrived, she was 15 minutes late. Her first reaction was panic and self-blame. But then she remembered the divine order affirmation. She took a breath and said, "Divine order is established in this situation. There's a hidden blessing here." She walked in, apologized for being late, and the interviewer said, "Don't worry about it. Actually, our previous interview ran over, and you arriving late was perfect timing." They had the interview, and she got the job. Later, she found out that the person interviewed right before her had been rushed because they started late, and it affected their performance negatively. Her lateness had actually worked in her favor. That's divine order. What looked like a problem was actually perfect timing. But if she'd stayed in panic, she would have brought that energy into the interview and sabotaged herself. The affirmation shifted her consciousness and allowed the blessing to unfold. The fourth practice is the mental equivalent building exercise. This is daily practice of building mental equivalents for what you desire to experience. Remember, you can only experience what you have consciousness for. This expands your consciousness. Here's how to do it. Choose one desire. Let's say wealth. Every morning, spend 10 minutes studying people who embody wealth. Read about them. Watch them. Listen to them. Not to copy them, but to build a mental equivalent. Ask yourself, what consciousness do they operate from? How do they think about money? How do they make decisions? How do they handle challenges? Try on that consciousness. Throughout the day, when you face a problem, ask, how would a wealthy person see this problem? You're not pretending to be them. You're expanding your consciousness to include their perspective. And here's what happens. In week 1 and 2, it feels like pretending. In week 3 and 4, you have moments where the new consciousness feels natural. By month 2 and 3, the new consciousness is more frequent than the old. Eventually, the new consciousness becomes who you are. And experience follows. This is law. You are not stuck with your current level of consciousness. You can expand it deliberately. And when you expand it, your world must expand. Let me give you specific guidance on this. If you want to build a mental equivalent for wealth, study people like Warren Buffett, not for his investment strategies, but for his consciousness. Notice how he talks about money. He's not desperate. He's not worried. He sees opportunities where others see problems. He's patient. He's confident. He's generous. That's wealth consciousness. If you want to build a mental equivalent for health, study people who are vibrantly healthy into old age. Notice how they think about their bodies. They don't obsess over illness. They assume vitality. They move with confidence. They eat with pleasure, not fear. They trust their bodies. That's health consciousness. If you want to build a mental equivalent for love, spend time around happily married couples. Notice how they interact. They're kind. They're respectful. They assume good intent. They communicate openly. They prioritize the relationship. That's love consciousness. You're building a new blueprint in your consciousness. And once that blueprint is established, your subconscious will create experiences that match it. This is how you transform your life from the inside out. The fifth and final practice is the Sabbath release practice. After praying or setting intention, practice complete release and trust. Attachment to outcome creates desperate energy that repels. Release allows reception. Here's how to do it. After you pray or visualize, do this. Say out loud, "It is finished. It is done. I release this to divine wisdom." Physically release. Open your hands. Breathe out. Let it go. Anytime worry comes back, and it will, repeat, "It is done. I rest." Then occupy yourself with other activities. Live your life. Trust the gestation period. This is the hardest practice for most people. Your mind will want to check, worry, force. That's normal. But each time you release, you strengthen your faith muscle. And here's the paradox. Manifestation often comes when you've truly let go. When you're no longer desperate. When you're resting in trust. The Sabbath is sacred. God rested not from exhaustion, but in trust that the work was done. You must learn this divine rest. It is in the rest that the harvest ripens. These 5 practices are your toolkit. You don't need to do all of them every day, but choose at least 2, and be consistent. Your subconscious mind learns through repetition. And remember, you're not doing these practices to make something happen. You're doing them to align with what is already done. The blessing is already hidden in your life. These practices help you see it. Now, I want to add something important about consistency. The reason most people don't get results from spiritual practices is not that the practices don't work. It's that they don't do them consistently. They try something for 3 days, don't see immediate results, and give up. But your subconscious mind is like a garden. You can't plant a seed today and expect a full-grown plant tomorrow. You have to water it, tend it, give it time to grow. Commit to these practices for at least 30 days. Mark it on your calendar. Make it non-negotiable. And watch what happens. In the first week, you'll feel resistance. Your old consciousness will fight the new consciousness. That's normal. Keep going. In the second week, you'll start to notice small shifts. Little synchronicities. Moments of peace. Keep going. By the third and fourth weeks, the new consciousness starts to feel more natural. And by the end of 30 days, you'll be a different person. Not because I said so, but because consciousness is creative, and you've been deliberately creating new consciousness. So let me bring this all together for you, my friend. The hidden blessing is not something you have to create. It's something you have to recognize. It's already there. In every challenge, every loss, every moment you thought God had forgotten you, the blessing was hidden, waiting for you to develop the consciousness to see it. The forgotten teachings of divine law are simply this. You live in a universe of absolute love, guided by infinite intelligence, and nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by accident. Your subconscious mind is connected to this infinite intelligence. And when you learn to work with it instead of against it, miracles become your natural experience. The 7 laws we explored, reversed effort, subconscious acceptance, divine compensation, mental equivalence, dual thinking, assumption, and Sabbath rest, these aren't religious dogma. They're operating principles of reality. Use them, and you must get results. It's scientific. It's spiritual. It's law. And the 5 practices. The hidden blessing inventory, the subconscious impression technique, the divine order affirmation, the mental equivalent building, and the Sabbath release. These are your practical tools. They're simple but powerful. They work because they're based on how your subconscious mind actually functions. Use them consistently, and your life will transform, not because of magic, but because of law. I want you to understand something profound. Everything I've taught you today, you already knew. Deep in your soul, you already knew it. That's why this message resonated with you. That's why you stayed for the entire journey. Your soul recognized truth. Now your conscious mind has the understanding, and your subconscious mind has been impressed with these principles. The work has begun. But here's what you must remember. Knowing is not enough. You must apply. You must practice. You must live these principles. Don't just be a hearer of these words. Be a doer. Because it's in the doing that transformation happens. It's in the consistent application of these principles that your life changes. It's in the daily practice that you develop the consciousness that creates your new reality. And I want to encourage you. If you slip up, if you forget, if you fall back into old patterns, don't beat yourself up. Just begin again. Every moment is a new opportunity to choose blessing consciousness. Every moment is a chance to align with divine law. Every moment is a doorway to transformation. There are no failures, only lessons. There are no setbacks, only setups for comebacks. So I want you to take this with you. Place your hand on your heart right now and say these words with me, with feeling. Divine order is now established in every area of my life. Every challenge I have faced has been a hidden blessing leading me to my highest good. I now see with new eyes. I now recognize the divine hand in all things. My subconscious mind is now impressed with perfect health, abundance, love, and divine expression. I rest in the knowing that it is done. I am blessed beyond measure. And so it is. Amen. Feel that. Let it sink deep into your subconscious mind. This is your truth. This is who you really are. You are not separate from God. You are not separate from infinite intelligence. You are an expression of divine love, guided by divine wisdom, protected by divine law. And when you align with this truth, everything changes. If this message resonated with your soul, and I believe it did, or you wouldn't still be here, then do me a favor. Click that subscribe button so we can continue this journey together. I share these teachings because they changed my life, and I've watched them change thousands of others. There's so much more I want to share with you. More principles, more practices, more stories of transformation. This is just the beginning. Hit the like button if you found value here. It helps others who need this message find it. And I promise you, someone out there right now is in the exact situation you were in when you started watching this video. They're struggling. They're in pain. They think God has abandoned them. And your simple act of liking this video helps them find the message that could change their life. You could be part of their blessing. And please, leave a comment below. Tell me, what hidden blessing have you discovered in your own life? What challenge are you now seeing differently? What practice are you going to start with? I read every comment, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. We're all connected. Your breakthrough could inspire someone else's breakthrough. Your testimony could be someone else's hope. And if you're going through a challenge right now, if you're in the middle of something painful, I want you to know this. The hidden blessing is already there. You just can't see it yet, because you're too close. But it's there. Trust that. Hold on to that. Keep asking, what is the hidden blessing? And one day, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you will see it clearly. And when you do, you will fall to your knees in gratitude for the very thing you thought was going to destroy you, because you'll realize it was actually saving you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being open to these teachings. Thank you for being willing to see your life differently. You are a courageous soul. It takes courage to question your old beliefs. It takes courage to try new practices. It takes courage to trust when you can't see the way. And you're doing it. I'm proud of you. Until we meet again, remember, you are blessed beyond measure, and the hidden blessings in your life are revealing themselves now. Not because I said so, but because it's law. Because you are now conscious of divine law. Because you are now looking with new eyes. Because you are now aligned with infinite intelligence. The universe is conspiring in your favor. Every single moment. God bless you, my friend. Go in peace. Walk in faith. Live in the consciousness of the hidden blessing. And watch your life transform before your very eyes. And so it is. Amen.